This week, coming up from the ashes.
I feel like that they should have got Frank Welker to do the voice of Megatron, but apparently they didn't want to go that route.
Yeah, I heard he auditioned for it, and they said no.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Who the hell tells him no, especially a voiceover? Today is Monday, June 10th, and welcome to From the Ashes podcast. Today we are going to be talking about all things Transformer, the Transformers legacy, basically. And I am your host, Phoenix, and with me today I have my co-host, as always, Arson, and that undead person that always seems to show up, thankfully, Zhombi. How you guys doing?
Brains.
I'm tired.
Me too.
Same.
I only got like 3.5 hours of sleep last night, 4 hours maybe.
I got to beat 2 hours.
Oh, really? Oh, well, it's not a contest.
1 hour.
37.2 minutes. No.
2 seconds.
Dang, that's a quick sleep. So yeah,
Slept it all.
I didn't sleep at all last night. Oh, sorry. Wow. Was that a nice little burp there?
That was a nice burp.
Oh,
It's
okay.
probably the most exciting thing that happened so far.
Yeah. Except for me just being here, you know. But anyways, so yeah, as what I said, we're gonna be talking about all things Transformers, and that can span from anything from movies. When I think Transformers, I think the OG stuff like Generation 1 and even Generation 2. But pretty much, you know, we're gonna get into all that stuff. We maybe cover a few games if anybody knows anything about the games. But yeah, it's gonna be movies, TV mainly. So to kick things off, let's talk about this. I want to start with Arson first because I want to hear his side of things. What was your first interaction with Transformers? What do you remember first? Like,
I know there was a cartoon. Usually I just say the movies, but I think one of the first was the cartoon. I forgot which one it was. It's been such a long time. Like, I've come extremely ill prepared here. I was gonna ask one of my friends for like a full list of details because he's a huge Transformers guy.
oh, is he?
Yeah,
Mm.
but I have unfortunately turned up empty-handed.
Oh no. Well,
It's gonna have to be one of the ones I let go.
So what about you, Zombie? What do you remember first about Transformers?
The name Transformers.
Yeah, well, but you're no, I mean like
Yeah, I know what
I mean.
Look, the sarcasm part of my brain is the first thing to wake up. All right, I can't help it.
Yeah. I get you.
So the first thing I think of when I Transformers is the 80s cartoon show.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was my first real experience into, you know, Transformers and stuff like that.
Man, you're old.
Look who's talking.
Look who's talking too.
No, seriously, look in a mirror.
Yeah.
But wow, you completely derailed my train of thought.
80s cartoon.
Well, yeah, I know that. I'm trying to pick up, you know, where I left off. So I didn't watch the movie from that until I can't remember, but it was like well after it came out.
Well, considering the movie, you know, didn't come out until what, like was it 2007? Is that when the first one came out? Around 2006 or 7? Oh, you mean the animated series movie
Yeah,
where they kill off a really
yeah.
the main character basically.
And
Yes.
Oh
unless
man, spoilers.
Yeah. Spoilers to like a 40-year-old movie.
yeah, I was about to say, um, but uh, if unless I'm recalling incorrectly, like I didn't see it until like I was in college, and that was like 2000, 2003.
Really? You didn't see that
I mean,
movie? Wow.
I might have,
Yeah.
but I just don't recall. I mean, you know,
Hmm.
things I saw as a kid,
Yeah.
like I don't recall ever being like, wow, that was great, or oh, it was so traumatic, as a kid, that it stuck with me. So if I saw it
Yeah.
as a kid, I don't remember that I saw it as a kid, or I saw bits and pieces of it as a kid, like if like it aired on TV at one point and I happened to catch a little bit of it
Yeah.
or something, but um
Well,
I did
go
end up
ahead.
playing a couple of the games.
Okay. Well, we'll we'll
Um
we'll get into
I
that
know
here
I'm
in
just
a
kind
bit.
of recounting
Yeah, 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 yeah.
my
Um,
journey.
well, I remember watching, like everybody else my age, sitting in front of the TV on Saturday mornings, eating my bowl of cereal, watching like cartoons like He-Man and GI Joe and stuff like that. Like even like they had like the Super Mario Brothers cartoon
Wait,
and
you like He-Man? Since
oh
when?
since you're so funny. Of course, he's speaking in his native tongue, and that's sarcasm. But 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 yeah, so Transformers was on that show, and I there was a cartoon that came out before Transformers. It was the same year, but it released like a week or two before Transformers did, and it's the one that what people would always say that it was a rip off of Transformers when it actually came out first was GoBots. But we'll
Yeah.
get into that a little bit later. And I'm interested to talk about this because I actually recently just watched all the GoBots, the Challenge of the GoBots, and the movie, which was actual trash. Um, I watched it in its entirety, and man, that was a good show. But anyways, so yeah, that's when I first remember watching it as a kid, back in 84, 85, 86, around those times. And it was just, along with like Thundercats and all these other ones, Silverhawks. We can have a Saturday morning cartoon fest, you know, podcast down the road, but today it's for Transformers. But yeah, that's when I remember first stepping into seeing the Transformers done, and I know a lot of. I'm pretty sure Transformers first started off being kind of like He-Man. I think it was a toy first. I think I could be wrong.
I
Uh,
I heard that the show came about to sell the toys.
well,
Which being in from the 80s doesn't really surprise me,
yeah.
but again, I don't have anything to back that up.
Mhm. Well, see, the toy line came out, and then the same year, the cartoon was released. So it says, even on the Wikipedia page, it says the franchise began in '84 with the Transformers toy line, comprising of Transformers mecha toys from Takara's whatever Diaclone and Micro changed toy line story, rebranded from Western markets. But yeah, so um, I love this show. Like I loved everything about it. I loved the voice actors in it. Just amazing. Like the Generation One could never be topped in my eyes ever. But there have been some really good reiterations of or iterations of the show, even ones that are trying to take it back to its, glory days. And I think that's pretty cool, what they've done with it so far. So anyways, but yeah, that's what I wanted to say, but we got a lot more to talk about, like, you know, the upcoming movie that's coming out, which looks I don't know if you guys haven't seen the trailer. Did you guys ever take a minute to actually watch that trailer that I posted in the Discord?
I just saw it when I popped in and like, oh yeah. So no.
Yeah. Um, well, it looks interesting. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know. From the trailer itself, it seems like it's gonna be fairly good. We've got Optimus Prime and Megatron before they were Optimus Prime and Megatron, and they're basically friends. And Optimus Prime is being voiced by who did I say? Chris Hemsworth. So it's gonna be interesting hearing Chris Hemsworth with. I'm pretty sure he's not using his real accent. He's using an American accent. Um, but it's pretty neat. I mean, so let's swing back to Arson real quick. Arson, before we kick things off, that you have no idea. Uh, tell me a little something about your experience with Transformers, like when it comes to anything like movies and whatnot.
I think I only played one game. I watched a good chunk of the movies, but most of them were the freaking Michael Bay ones, and that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately, I didn't watch the one, I guess the latest one. I just
Oh,
didn't.
yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't know. I was a bit confused on it, so I never really made an effort to go watch it.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
just like it's one of those things that I wanted to like, but I just couldn't bring myself to go like, watch it and stuff.
mm-hmm.
I feel like if I really want to enjoy the whole thing more, I should like start like at the beginning with like the 80s show and all that, because I started very poorly with it.
Yeah.
Not to say that the Bay movies are bad, they're entertaining in a lot of ways, but they're not like, they're not the way you should experience a franchise like this.
Right. They didn't do it justice. I mean, the first episode I feel like they did pretty well, but it fell apart with Revenge of the Fallen, Dark of the Moon, Age of the Extinction, and The Last Night. Like The Last Night was complete and utter trash. I think Age of Extinction and The Last Night were both trash.
Didn't like
Um,
the dinosaur.
I think they did the Dinobots wrong, like really bad, and I just was not happy with that at all. When they came out with Bumblebee, that's the first movie where Michael Bay was not the director of it, but he was a producer. But Bumblebee was really good. I enjoyed it. Transformers: Rise of the Beasts. I felt like they did that really well, especially when you take the point that you look at it as Optimus Primal and Optimus Prime were different characters for the most part. Even though the cartoon says differently, sort of. So, but I kind of like that aspect. It was pretty interesting the way they did that. Um, I didn't mind it. I feel like it was better than the trash that Michael Bay put out, except for the first one. Like I said, the first one was really good. I feel like that they should have got Frank Welker to do the voice of Megatron, but apparently they didn't want to go that route.
Yeah, I
Uh,
heard he auditioned for it and they said no.
are you serious?
Yeah.
Who the
Like
hell
I heard
tells him no? Especially a voiceover.
well, and it's like that's one thing that because I can't remember who it might have been one of my friends um that said that and I'm like I was like the same thing. It's like, why would you not want to? I mean, I get like if the voice actor didn't want to do it, but like I would have pushed for look, let's try to get as much of the original voice actors as we can. Because not that a lot of people follow voice actors, but you get the people that were really into the show from the 80s, that could be like a selling point. Like, hey, look, we got the voice of your childhood.
Right. And they had half of it. Don't make any sense. That's like the real Ghostbusters with Ernie Hudson thing. Like Ernie Hudson like did an audition to become his own character, Winston, in the cartoon. And they were like, "Yeah, no, you don't even sound anything like him." Like, are you serious? Like, and then they ended up getting Arsenio Hall. But that's what I'm saying is that they have stuff like that. Like, I did not know that. You actually showed me something I didn't know there, Zombie.
There's a
Wow.
lot I'm sure that I know that you
Oh
don't
yeah.
know.
Yeah. But like when it comes to cartoons and Frank Welker and stuff like that, I had no idea that he did audition. Wow, that's
Now, again, that's what I was told. Whether it's true or not, again, I don't know.
well, I believe it because it's Michael Bay. So, he's
Yeah.
What did they think would have happened?
between Transformers and like he's trying to kill our childhood. I hope he doesn't get signed on for like the He-Man movie because he's already killed Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. What's next? But um it's interesting because I'm looking at the list of films that they have, and I've never seen this before, but in development they have after Transformers 1, they have a Transformers G.I. Joe movie crossover. Which that actually happened. Of course, it's easy to do because, um, with Hasbro owning basically,
All of
both
it.
franchises, yeah, they could do whatever they want. They license it out any way they want. And they have had comic books that have had the Transformers and the and G.I. Joe in there. And it's interesting because I'm looking at this page and it's got a Transformers episode 3. It's a 3 in a 4-issue limited series. And take a wild guess who is guest starring in it. All right, I'm going to tell you first, it's a Marvel comic book. So who do you think's the guest star in it?
Danny DeVito.
Holy crap, how did you not know? Spider-Man. So literally Spider-Man and the Transformers crossed over. And actually they said Nick Fury was in that in that issue too. Which it's old school Nick Fury. But they had cameos and they also visited the Savage Land. Wouldn't that be cool if like the Savage Land is where the Dinobots actually reside? Like that'd be pretty neat.
It makes
But
sense.
yeah, it would. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of cool. But let's get into those different Hasbro things. So when it came to Transformers, like I said earlier, one of their biggest like I don't know like competitors, I guess you could say, was Tonka, and Tonka had the rights to they created GoBots, and it's kind of interesting because Hasbro bought out Tonka in 1991, and so the GoBots were brought into the Transformers universe. It's really interesting because they made it in there as like they were established as an alternate universe within the Transformers multiverse. And I always found that cool because I feel like those guys they should do something like introduce some GoBots into a Transformers media type of thing, like whether it be a game or whatnot. So I just
I
thought
mean,
that was pretty cool.
you could even do that just as a simple nod. I mean, you
Yeah.
could, like have like them listen, like come across some log and just have someone mention something about, oh, hey, and mention the characters from it.
Right.
And then
Right.
just kind of move on. It doesn't even have to be this big thing, just like a quick 30-second scene or something
Mm-hmm.
like that.
Well, and yeah, and you're right. And it's funny because a lot of the same voice actors that voiced, because Challenge of the GoBots was done by Hanna-Barbera, and Transformers, I think, what was that studio? It was like Sun something, which was owned by Marvel, I think. So, and I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but let me take a little quick look at this to make sure I am right, because the excuse me, it was produced by Sun something. Oh gosh. Well, anyways, I think it was Marvel based, because there were some cartoons back in the day that was produced by Marvel. That's how they actually stayed alive in the 80s, like with the media, because Marvel was on the downhill slope in the 80s with a lot of stuff. And like to the point to where they almost sold out a couple times, I think. But stuff like this kept them, going. And but Transformers, being produced by them, because I remember seeing at the end of it's Sumbo, I think it's called Sumbo. But yeah. So, anyways, I completely went off the deep end on this one and went to a different side. So
You did.
yeah. So, but where was I with that? Anyways, GoBots. So yeah, the GoBots, I think, are a pretty neat show. They had not only was it Hanna-Barbera, but it like shared of a lot of the same voice actors. Frank Welker was also in that. And but I think it'd be cool to have, like you said, like a crossover, have like a nod, like show leader 1, which is the leader of the GoBots. Show leader 1 or Psykill, which is the leader of the Renegades. You know, doing something, And Frank Welker played the voice of Scooter in there, and I always thought that was pretty cool, because I love the voice. I love Frank Welker, Frank Welker. I, I I love Frank Welker's voice. I think he, it's unique, and the way he can change it to make it sound like Fred Jones, which is basically his voice, and then turn around and do Megatron, like that. It's such a 360, and he does that so well. That's got to do like have a strain on your voice.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, so that's a nice little opener. But yeah, so Arson, you were talking about one of the games that you played of theirs. Do you remember what that was? I don't know. I gave you a little time to like.
Absolutely not. I don't remember the damn name of the game. It was like back in like what 2012 or something.
Well, dag blame it. I
I'm
was
not pulling
trying.
knowledge out of my ass that's over 10 years old.
Oh
Even if I tried to
gosh.
search up for the game, I wouldn't know which one it is. They made
Well,
quite a bit of games.
they did. But like the newer ones, I would say are probably like they had one called what was it, Transformers Devastation, and it was like based on a Gen 1. It was based off Gen 1, and it came out for PS3 and 4 and Windows and Xbox 360 and 1. And it was pretty cool. It had a nice cartoony feel to it. It felt like you were in that role. Did you guys ever play, what was it, the X-Men game on PlayStation 2? It was kind of I can't think of the name of it, but it had that type of animation. It was really really cartoony, and I like that in that aspect. Um, but yeah, there's some of the games I played, but not a lot of them, because I wasn't going to touch the Michael Bay movie release games and stuff like that, because they really were trash. Just really just screwed up everything about the Transformers after the first movie, in my eyes. So yeah. But what about you, Zombie? What about you with the whole game thing? Or what have you played, or that you remember playing?
Well, so I remember playing the there's a Beast Wars game, and I remember playing that. I don't remember anything about it. Um, but I remember playing it.
Yeah. Wait, are you talking about the
Uh,
one that was on like the original PlayStation?
let me look.
Like late 90s? I couldn't tell you the year. I remember that Beast Wars game on PlayStation. If that's what you're talking about.
Yes.
Okay.
I yeah. I remember playing it. I don't remember much about it.
Mm-hmm.
Other than I played it.
Yeah.
Um,
So it was lackluster in
and
your eyes.
well,
Wasn't worth remembering besides the name.
I mean, I never got very
Transformers.
far.
Yeah.
Um,
So you
but
never finished it.
no.
Yeah.
Uh, but the other one that I played, and I technically still own it. Transformers War for Cybertron.
Oh, yes. So, and the fall of Cybertron too, right? Like,
I just own War for Cybertron. I don't because I
yeah,
played it. I got to a certain point in it, and I couldn't get past it. And I'm like, just bullshit, and I
yeah.
never picked it back up again.
So they had the War of Cybertron series, which consisted of
Well,
like a
yeah,
trilogy of games: War for Cybertron, what was it, Fall of Cybertron, and the Rise of the Darkspark. But they were like phenomenal that I've seen. I've never played them, but from the
I mean,
footage I've seen, it looks so good.
yeah, what I played of it was good.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have so many iterations of Transformers, and like, so they have like Generation 1, they have the Generation 2 that came out after they killed Optimus Prime in the movie. Also, let me just say this again: Transformers is one of the first cartoons that were regular Saturday morning cartoons to drop a cuss word in that show, and it was in the movie. But they literally said, and I'm quoting, shit in the movie. So that I found that quite interesting because, you know, they're credited with one of the first cursing words in like movie, well, in like that era of Saturday morning cartoons and whatnot. But they just decided to drop that. I can't remember exactly where it is in the movie, but they do. It's kind of like what we were talking about last week, Arson, with the Guardians of the Galaxy and the first F bomb. You know, it was just like,
Just
wow.
like it seemed like it was planned though, but like, did they
Yeah.
did they face any like backlash for that, or
I
you think
honestly,
they
I
just
don't know.
got free?
I'm not sure actually.
Because you
Uh,
think they would have probably at least like got a bit of a slap on the wrist from parents or something. I don't know.
yeah. To drop that in the middle of a movie though, man, I mean, granted, that movie was not like made for TV. It was actually in theaters, and it was amazing. And that song was "You Got the Touch" or "The Touch" is what it's called. "You Got the Touch" is like so amazing. I love that song.
It's
And
good.
I know anybody that's listening to this now is in the background just singing that in their head or singing it out loud or going to their Spotify or wherever and be like, ah, let's listen to that again. I
Look it up
recommend
on the search bar.
it. I recommend it. Um, but yeah, so you go from the Gen 1 and Gen 2 series, and then they come out with this series in 96, which by that time I was graduating high school. You know, I didn't have time to watch a lot of cartoons, so it kind of got lost in the mix. I watched some of it, but that's when they came out with Beast Wars and Beast Machines between that era. And you had people, you had characters like Optimus Primal and the Predacons, led by still Megatron. So, and the Autobots were, or the new Autobots, I should say, were called the Maximals. So that was a very well celebrated show. Like apparently it has some of the best storylines, and it's pretty cool. You know, but you move over and go into like the newer series, like the ones I started watching again, they were actually like anime versions. And it was called, just dubbed, Transformers: Robots in Disguise. And then they had the after that only lasted for a year, and after that they had the Unicron trilogy, which was Transformers Armada, Energon, and Cybertron, and those were really good. It lasted for like 4 years, and it was just really really good. Granted, you had to get used to different people voicing those characters because they didn't have the original voice characters. Some of them by that point have passed away too. Like the original voice of Starscream passed away, and ever since it was just horrible. But what was that guy's name? Gary. Shoot, I can't think of his name. It's like
I
Gary
don't think that's
Chalk.
his name.
Gary Chalk, I think. Uh, I can't remember, but he does a lot of voiceovers too. But he voiced Optimus Prime in that series. It's Gary something. I think it's Chalk, but I could be wrong. But anyway, so those three, I started watching those, and they were really good. I enjoyed them. I don't think I ever finished them, but it was really good. So, but after that, you got like shows like Transformers Animated that came out in 2007, 2010, which could be the one that Arson watched. It was very cartoony. They were like, to be fair, they were like trashmen basically picking up, and they ended up on Earth, and it was weird.
Rashman,
Well, it was something along the lines. So
their distant cousin Wally.
Wally. All right, so basically the synopsis of this show, and it's a standalone show. It's literally not considered part of the main continuity. But it began with like a 3-part movie or a 3-part series movie, and it says after the Autobots won the Great War for Cybertron against the Decepticons, an Autobot maintenance crew led by Optimus Prime and consisting of Ratchet, Bulkhead, Prowl, and Bumblebee discover the legendary Allspark buried on an asteroid. The Autobots take the Allspark back to their ship, but are soon confronted by a crew of Decepticons led by the notorious warlord Megatron, and consisting of Blitzwing, Lugnut, Black Arachnid, and Starscream. Megatron attacks the Autobot ship and tries to retrieve the Allspark, but when an explosive planted on Megatron by the treacherous Starscream detonates, the ship crashes on Earth. The Autobots go into a stasis and survive the crash, while the scattered remains of Megatron are discovered by a human scientist named Isaac. So that's kind of like the brief synopsis of it, the overview. But they were a maintenance crew. Okay, they weren't trashmen, but they were a maintenance crew, and I just find that funny. What's funny is Bill Fagerbach was the voice of Bulkhead in that, and if you don't know who Bill Fagerbach is, he is actually the voice of SpongeBob's best friend.
A poem by Patrick Star.
So, but it was if you leave out the part where that's supposed to be like a straight up Transformers, but it's aimed more at younger kids, kind of. It was a good show. I enjoyed it. I really did. I thought that had a lot of promise. But I also wanted to see like old school Gen 1 come back. I wish they just reboot the cartoon and bring that back like 100%. And they did that actually, like for a little bit. There was I can't think of the name of it. There was like a little mini shorts that they put together, and there was like a trilogy of them, and it was really cool. What the heck was the name of it? I'll have to come back to it, but anyways, somebody else talk. I'm tired of hearing my voice.
Wow, that's a first.
I can't utter words.
Well, all right. Welcome to the Zhombi show. Zombie, say something. All right, never mind. I should have not said that.
You have to carry this episode to
The
the
rest of the way.
very end.
Um,
Bitter end. One might say.
So, I didn't watch all of it, but, and I'm trying to quickly do a switch because I just remembered it. Uh, did either of you watch any of the Titans Return?
Titans Return, that's the one I was talking about. The ones where it's like the Gen 1 stuff. Like they made a short trilogy about it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
I yeah. I watched a couple. I didn't watch all of it because I think at the time there's only like parts 1 and 2. The third one wasn't out yet or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I liked it. I liked seeing the continuation of that story. I liked that
Yes.
that's what they did. That it wasn't just they okay, well, let's continue where we left off. Um, I kind of like the fact that, and spoilers for anybody that hasn't seen it, but again, it's 6 years old, so
Mm.
um, it takes place after the the 80s cartoon and the movie and all that other stuff. And both, unless I'm remembering incorrectly, both Megatron and Optimus Prime have been exiled. The war is over, and I can't remember who they put in charge. Um, they both of them were basically, look, you two are responsible for this war,
Mm.
for making it go on as long as it did. And like you're both at fault, so they exiled both of them. Um,
You gotta go. You
well, I
ruined the
think
Transformers economy.
I mean, I took it as a step to, um, excuse me, uh, dish out a punishment, but I kind of also see it as me as like, well, look, there's not really a whole lot of us, so we can't just go executing people anymore.
Mm.
So, yeah, you're exiled. Um, but I mean, what I saw, I liked of it. I liked the fact that they had, uh, the Titans and all that other stuff.
Right.
I remembered that they kind of introduced the fact that there's more than one Matrix. It's not just the Matrix of leadership.
Right.
They have the one for the combiners, which that kind of shocked me. I was like, wow, really? But it makes sense, because looking at like the lore, it's like, okay, well, why or do these exist?
Mm.
Um, but um,
Well, it's interesting though. Like in that show, so they do you know why that they did this? I know it's going to surprise you. The whole Titans Return and all the other ones that they came with it, the Combiner Wars, the Power of the Primes, the Prime Wars trilogy, that's all part of the Titans Return. Um they did that obviously to sell toys.
well, yes.
But listen to the voices, like some of them that are in here, and they brought back some. Peter Cullen is Optimus Prime, obviously. The movies really brought him back to being like really, really like in front of everybody else, because after Gen 1 ended, they didn't bring Peter Cullen back to voice Optimus Prime, like for all the other stuff. But,
Mhm.
After the movies, it's like, yeah, let's get the original voice and bring him in. But they had Peter Cullen as Optimus Prime. They had Michael Dorn, which if you don't know who that is, you don't like Star Trek. He's Worf off of Star Trek: The Next Generation. Fortress Maximus. They had Jason David Frank as as emissary, and if you don't know who Jason David Frank is, uh, R.I.P. He is the Green White Ranger in the series Power Rangers. They had Mark Hamill in there as Megatronus and the Fallen. They did not actually have Frank Welker as Megatron in this. It was Jason Marnaka, whatever. They brought back Judd Nelson because Judd Nelson was the original voice of Rodimus Prime or Hot Rod in the movie, and they brought him back as Rodimus Prime in this. Nolan North is a big voice actor. He was in it as Metroplex. Carrie Walgreen was in it as Victoron. And then we got like Will Wheaton was in there as Perceptor. Like they had all these big names, like, well, not like big names, but they had like some that were, well known. You know who they are. Like if I say Will Wheaton, you know who Will Wheaton is.
Will Wheaton.
Will Wheaton. But yeah, just to think that they had like Michael Dorn, Jason David Frank, Judd Nelson, Will Wheaton, Carrie Walgreen, and Peter Cullen. That's a pretty good cast, and that's just in the Titans Return. So, like the Combiner Wars is the second installment. Like this is part of the Prime Wars trilogy. It was just a really good cartoon. They did really well. It was like 11 to 12 minutes a piece, and they did that so you could piece it together and make basically one big movie out of it. I really liked it. They did such a good job. I think the only other thing I can think of that was as good as that, if not, I think this was better, but I really like Transformers Prime.
Yeah.
So
Prime was good.
Prime was a really good show. Plus, in the first episode in the movie, it had The Rock in it. Of course, he died. Spoiler: his character died, but hey, he was in it. So, but yeah, I mean, it's just a good series, like all around. I'm not a big fan of like the Rescue Bots series. I don't really count that.
Rescue Bots.
I mean, look, it is what it is. They released it for like more of a younger kids, to get that demographic, to get those the younger children.
Don't worry, kids. It's the Rescue Bots.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's, man, it was such a great, it still is such a great show. They've got a new series that's been airing the past couple years. I don't know if it's still actually still going.
Is that Earth Spark?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know.
It started in 2022 and it's gone 2 seasons. But it's actually pretty good. I don't know if there's going to be a 3rd season, but the 2nd season premiered June. It's going to premiere. Oh no, it premiered yesterday. Okay, so I mean, my bad. It not yesterday because today's Monday. I just really screwed that up. Dang it! No, on the 7th of June it premiered. So the 2nd season literally is, and that's actually got Dietrich Bader in it, like this series does. It has Alan Tudyk in it, or Tudyk. I don't know how you pronounce his name. I think it's Tudyk. But it's got some fairly known people in there as well. So it's interesting because it's not about like the main characters. It's about like some of the characters led by like Bumblebee, and I enjoy it. But yeah, your thoughts on that?
Nope, head empty.
Um,
He is the void.
So I watched a couple episodes of it.
Mhm.
And the type of thing of like I do it, I watch a couple episodes of something, I'm like, oh, this is cool, I'll come back to it. And then I never do. For whatever reason, not like the only thing, and this could have been addressed later on, that I didn't like about the Earthspark was that they made Optimus Prime out to be a freaking idiot.
That's true.
Like he's this bumbling moron And I'm like, what the heck? Like, what is this? You know, like, why would you, this is supposed to be the leader that defeated Megatron? Is this
Yeah.
bumbling moron? No. Um, but again, like I said, that could have been addressed in a later episode,
Yeah.
and I just didn't see it.
But it's
But
also Transformers in the new era, the Paramount
yeah,
Plus era and all that stuff. And I'm not a big fan of a lot of things on there because, it's they're too awake for me, if you can understand what I'm trying to say.
yeah.
But I
So
do go ahead.
that brings me up into another interesting little point. So I was reading a little bit about the show, and they said there was some controversy over pronouns used or something like that. Um, and it reminded me something else that I heard, and it was why they introduced RC in the 80s as a female Autobot. And
Okay.
was because there was backlash that this was all males.
Right.
And from what I recall being said is like, well, they're robots. They don't have gender. They're not male. They're not female. They're giant robots.
Correct.
So, I mean, in that term, you wouldn't refer to them as he or whatever. But I found that to be interesting.
Yeah, but when they refer to them as he or she in the cartoon, like the
Yeah,
original cartoon, that's what I go
yes,
by.
but yeah, and I understand that.
Hmm.
But also looking at it, but they wouldn't have used they.
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah. I mean, I get that 100%, and to a certain degree, I would agree with that if they wouldn't have
no, I
introduced it
don't
like they
care.
did, and I don't care either.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
care either way. I mean,
I love the show, and but yeah, that is
nice polygons are nice polygons.
exactly. Let me switch into another gear real quick. So,
First, second, third, fourth, fifth, or reverse.
Yeah, how many
we're
gears we got on this car, man?
we're gonna shift into sixth gear, okay?
Wow.
Yeah. So,
Sounds irresponsible.
Make sure you use
well,
the clutch correctly.
I want to ask you guys this question, if you guys can actually answer this.
42.
Who is your favorite character in the series? And they could be different ones. Who is your favorite character in the series, and who is your favorite character that had the best like storylines, like the best progression as a character?
Well, Bob, as you well know, I have no idea. I'm just here to mess about, half dead, half
Yeah.
asleep.
Well, that's you.
All I know is that I must say stupid things to keep the entertainment value up.
And you're so good.
I know I am. Let's keep it rolling.
All right, so let's move on to Zombie then. Zombie, who's your favorite character? Or
So,
who's your favorite character with the best progression in their story?
as a kid, I always wanted the original Optimus Prime toy.
Yes.
Never got it, but I
Oh,
wanted it.
yeah.
But as far as like my favorite, I don't know. I kind of liked Cup.
Kind of like what?
Cup. Kup.
Oh, okay. I was like, hold on, wait a minute.
I like cups.
Yeah, I like
Change the
cups.
topics here. This is a network. This is now a cup cast.
Yep, Cupcast, ready.
There's an Autobot that can turn into a cup.
Um,
I guess I should also.
basically, like his whole thing was he was like the old man of the group.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's an Autobot that turns into a cup.
An old Autobot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked him too. But he's not my favorite. What about your storyline? Like Do you have one that you feel like that progressed really well? I've got
Oh,
mine. I know exactly who.
like a particular character story arc, you
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, like that their character actually was very intriguing, and they actually were able to progress it some within the series. Now, of course, I'm thinking more in terms of Gen 1, but this character was the same way in every single series. So, in
I
my
can't remember enough about uh like particular character story arcs because like
yeah,
it's been so long since I've seen any of it. Um that trying to recall a particular character's story arc is nigh impossible.
yeah.
Um but yeah, I mean nothing's really coming to mind about particular um character
Yeah.
story arcs.
Well, I'll tell you mine, okay? The character I love the most is always going to be Optimus Prime because who's as a kid of the 80s, a child, who grew up in the 80s, who didn't love Optimus Prime? You know, I would say that's like people who in wrestling loved Hulk Hogan, but I couldn't stand Hulk Hogan, so I can't compare that. But going back to Transformers, Optimus Prime was the big man on campus. He was everything. I liked some of the other characters that were in there. Like Bumblebee was more of a side character in there, like a big time side character in the original one.
Mhm.
And he talked real fast. Like you know, but anyways, I think it was him who talked. Maybe it's not him. There was another one that was kind of like him. But anyways, so my favorite character that was always out to get people is Starscream. Starscream was the evil of evil. Like, you sit there and he was always trying to backstab Megatron to get his job, basically. Like take over. He's always like, I could do a better job, and then as soon as Megatron would show up, he'd be like, what was that, Starscream? And he'd be like, nothing, Megatron. Stuff like that. Like,
Yeah.
oh, nothing, fearless leader. And like Starscream was such a great character. And I bring this up to say this. When they did bring out that other series that we were talking about, the Titans Return and stuff,
Hmm.
Starscream was a good guy in there because there wasn't like they weren't like so much Decepticons and Autobots at that time. They were, but they were all like working as a unit,
Yeah.
and Starscream was actually like supposed to be like a good guy in that until he wasn't. Like he was playing everybody the whole time and just
Hmm.
waiting, and because that's how Starscream was. And I loved his character progression because of the way he did things, and he was always like the wild card. Like he would go and like do everything he can to take out the Autobots, but in the back of his mind he's always wanting to stab Megatron in the back and take over because that's the type of person he was, or
Yeah.
type of robot he was. Sentient robot. But absolutely a great storyline. I loved that. Starscream's original voice will never um be what is it be duplicated, basically, because the guy who voiced him, his name was what was it, Christopher Collins, I think, Christopher Latta or whatever. His real name was Christopher Latta, but apparently he went by Christopher Charles Collins. But he died back in 1994, and he voiced Cobra Commander. Well, I mean, if you guys think about it, Cobra Commander and Starscream had kind of the same voice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but he voiced he voice acted for Moe and Mr. Burns in the first season of The Simpsons, and like before they got somebody else to do it. But yeah, like he passed away in 1994, and that was such a lost because man, he I don't know. Like I just love that voice of Starscream, and no one else can do it correctly. You know?
It was pretty iconic.
Yeah. And that's all I got to say about that. Look, so before we go, because I know we got things to do today, and I don't know where I was going with that.
I don't know either.
Any final thoughts on the Transformers? We could sit here like I've said about a lot of things. Transformers goes so in depth. We can literally sit here and talk about this for hours upon hours. I mean, I could, and I well, we had to skip around a lot, so like I was sitting here in my head trying to think of things. Um, but final thoughts on this, Arson? Any final thoughts on your Transformers lore or legacy or whatever?
Not really. All I know is that I do hope it has a good, long, prosperous go.
Yeah,
I feel like it's just, it's looking up, and I mean, where else can we really go but up, really, at this point?
yeah.
So, I mean, after I get a few spare moments to actually sober myself from the drunkenness that is sleep, and I realized how much of a fumble this episode was because of me. And then will I realize, man, we need to do a sequel.
So yeah, I see a sequel and coming up possibly in September of 2024. When the release of Transformers One comes out, who knows? But all right, what about you, Zombie? Any
Enough,
final?
yeah, enough fooling and tricking the audience into thinking we're ever doing.
Well, I'm trying to be like those little clickbait videos where they're like, "Stay tuned for part 2," and it never happens, or
Subscribe for part 2.
yeah, or be like talk about a movie and not tell you at all what the movie is. And you're like the most obscure clips. Like, oh my gosh, you guys
Oh
are.
man, you're sounding like a Starscream.
All right, Zombie. What about you? Any final thoughts?
All I gotta say is I like the 6-tone ratcheting effect.
Mm-hmm.
Just the sound they make,
Yeah.
that you know,
Yeah.
uh, especially in the 80s. It's just you could just play that sound effect for anybody,
Yeah.
and especially from what if they're from the 80s and they're gonna instantly go, oh, I know what that's from.
That was called the 80s ASMR. No. Yeah, I agree with that. I love the transforming effect. But okay, so my final thoughts are this. All right, I'm excited, but yet very cautious about the new movie coming out. I want to be able to like it. I love Chris Hemsworth and what he does. You've got a pretty good cast of characters in this as well. You got Scarlett Johansson that's going to be in it. Keegan Michael Key is going to be in it. Steve Buscemi, Lawrence Fishburne, John Hamm, Brian Tyree Henry is going to be Megatron. So it's got a good cast. However, it's yet to be seen if it's going to be any good.
I mean, my thoughts about that are, I mean, one of two things is going to happen, because eventually, I mean, the original voice actors are getting old and
Yeah,
or no longer with us. So someone's going to have to take over that role.
correct. Uh,
So I hope that they do a good enough job that it doesn't kill any other future endeavors,
right.
because I can see if they do try to do several things with different voice actors and it all does horrible,
Yeah,
them being like, well, I guess this is tapped out,
right.
you know. Um, so I really hope that it does good. One, because I hope they do a good job and it's entertaining to watch. But two, it
Mhm.
also opens the door for future endeavors.
Yeah. Well, and see, this movie is supposed to be kicking off a reboot of it. Like they're rebooting the franchise. And as long as Michael Bay stays in that producer status, I'll be fine. Once he decides to, like, if somebody, like, it's a big hit and he's like, oh, you know what, I want to man,
back in.
I want to take the reins and, like, no, you stay gone. shoo, get on out of here.
Do us all a favor, stay in your chair,
Yeah,
collect your check, and leave us alone.
exactly. Just stay quiet. Be that kid in the corner, like, that got sent to the corner for talking about his sister or something, or saying a bad word, But so, anyways, in closing, for me, like, I'm optimistic about this movie, but I'm cautious.
Is that a pun?
Yeah, it was. You caught it. Optimistic. Yeah. That's why I was like, I'm optimistic. Yeah, you caught it. You're welcome. But going forward, I hope this is a big hit and this will lead to maybe more of a Gen 1 rebirth kind of.
That would be fun to see.
Yeah, I would love that. The closest we got to a Gen 1 movie is Bumblebee. Like in the beginning scene, it was literally like cut straight from Generation 1. So that was amazing. I loved it. Granted, having to put up with John Cena in that movie was also fairly okay to me. But John Cena is a good actor. But anyways, I'm getting off track again. But yeah, so once Arson figures out that he needed more sleep or whatnot, I don't know. we'll figure out a time we can do a sequel to this and possibly do it. It's too late. But yeah,
Lacy, comforting grasp of napping.
Oh, napping is wonderful.
Napping.
Well,
Well,
let me just get myself into an extremely uncomfortable position. It's always the most uncomfortable position. Like, well, not uncomfortable, but you ever just like you morph or shift your body in a way that looks awful when someone's looking at you, but you're just like, ah, yes, wonderful.
yeah. Yep. All right, so on that note, guys, I want to thank Arson. Yeah, exactly. I want to thank Arson and Zhombi for being along with this ride with me. This has been an interesting episode. I like I said, I love Transformers. I grew up with it, and I'm excited to see where they go with this. I hope that this new movie brings great things instead of like the opposite. Like Arson said, though, there's nowhere to go but up. So we'll see what happens with that in the future. And I want to thank everybody for listening. And if you want to know more about From the Ashes, we've got a link that's in the description, and that you could go there and check out all things From the Ashes. We got our YouTube page on there. We got all of our social medias on there. We've also got the ones that are in the podcast that actually stream on Twitch. We've got that link in there as well. So go check it out. Show us some love. You got any questions, you can ask us. Comment and let me know who your favorite Transformer is, and maybe your favorite Transformers story arc, whether it's that has to do with the character or the actual story itself. But yeah, you guys have a great week, and we will be back next week with another episode that is TBD. All right, guys, have a good one.
Later.